Kilimanjaro, 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 mlima mrefu sana. Kilimanjaro, 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 mlima mrefu sana. Na mawenzi, na mawenzi, na mawenzi, na mawenzi.
The team met up on the 4th of October 2010 at Heathrow Airport. We then flew direct to Nairobi and then an internal flight to Kilimanjaro Airport. We arrived at Kili at 9 o'clock in the morning. We made our way through the airport, through immigration and out to the car park where 2 minibuses were waiting. The Marengo Hotel in a former life had been a German tobacco plantation. After sampling the local brew and having a little bit of a break, we then had to go to the hotel conference room and induction into the perils of climbing Kilimanjaro. And then we had the first of our daily medicals, which involved chests and blood tests, after which we had our final hotel meal. Next morning everyone was up early, ready for the adventure of the trek. The courtyard was a hive of activity with the preparations for the trek. All the porters and guides were starting to arrive. Amazing to see the amount of equipment that we were going to be taking. Everything was carefully weighed for the porters. Tents, water, cooking equipment, everything. It was just amazing how much. Our group was 10 in total. That was 8 fundraisers and 2 guides which had been provided by the Fisherman's Mission to look after us. And in total we had 32 porters and guides to see us through the trip. The trucks we went on were absolutely huge Mercedes. We actually got stopped by the police and papers were checked. We also made another stop for some fresh meat. And then we arrived at the Machami gate. With all the equipment and provisions, we started to get ourselves ready for the start of quite an adventure. We were quite surprised we were going up the Machami route because it's one of the hardest routes up the mountain. We were all expecting to go up a nice easy one. The Machami route is called the whiskey route because it's a touch of the hard stuff. It turned out to be for the best. It was an absolute excellent challenge, and to reach the summit from this route, it was quite an achievement.
Okay, day 1 we're starting, going through the gates, now no return.
As I say, it really is the route of no return. This is a one-way journey only up the Machami route. You can't come down this way. This was a nice start. We were going through the rainforest and we were expected to do about 5 or 6 hours walk up a gradual ascending through forest and a ridge between 2 streams and onward to the camp. At this point I think I should probably tell you a little bit about the Fisherman's Mission and how I come to be part of this trek. It all came about when I got contacted by a client who wanted to book a limo, and she went on to say that she was going on to climb Kilimanjaro to raise funds for the Fisherman's Mission. Her husband worked for the mission. It's only a small charity, but it looks after the welfare of families, fishermen around the British coastline who if they're lost at sea, the mission looks after the family. If they're injured, then they help them over the difficult times until they get back to work. It's not a particularly well-paid industry, and when things go wrong, it can cause great hardships for the family. So although it's a small charity, it really is a very worthwhile one because it's looking after people who work for a living, but through no fault of their own, find themselves on difficult times. We arrived at the camp late afternoon. By the time we got there, the tents were all set up, including the dining tent in the background there. All we had to do is put our own things into our tents. I think the thing that amazed me most was the food. on the trek. It was absolutely superb. As you can see here, this was the standard every day with 3 full courses. Absolutely superb.
Okay, we're just about to be setting off for the day 2 of this trek up Kilimanjaro. Getting harder. I think we'll all be okay.
Right, we're now heading towards Shearer Camp, which is up a steep ridge. We go through some moorlands, heading straight towards the peak. Then after about 4 hours the path turns left, flattening out onto a gorge and then sending more gently towards the actual Shearer Camp at 3,840 metres. Most people don't realise Kilimanjaro is actually a volcano. It's the largest freestanding volcano in the world. We're now getting close to 4 times the height of Snowdon, and the temperature's dropping quite rapidly. We will actually be sleeping at -0 temperatures tonight, and as you can see the tents have ice on them in the morning as we wake up. Although with the good quality sleeping bags you just don't feel it. The views of the mountain constantly changing, and it's just an incredibly beautiful place. This altitude was one of the more difficult ones to know what to wear. The thing is, you had to wear layers because it was cold in the morning. As soon as the sun came up it got very warm, so it was difficult to know. Another day and another breakfast, and as you can see, bacon, eggs, tomatoes. Incredible to think all this on a mountain. And then back to walking. Day 3, and we're all getting into our stride now. It's a slow plod, but very enjoyable.
Jomana tunawambia motobati, Jomana tunawambia motobati. Your smile is our job. Your smile. 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 Your smile. Your smile is our job. Your smile, your smile, our job. Motobati, 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 Matudanayo. Motobati, Motobati, Yakibuyo. Motobati, Motobati, Matelaote. Motobati, Yomana, tunawambia Motobati.
Your soundtrack.
Yomana, tunawambia Motobati. Yomana, tunawambia Motobati. Yomana, tunawambia Motobati.
We were now well on our way to our next camp, which was Barranco Camp, and this took us through some of the most dramatic scenery as we went through the rock and down into a gorge. We actually got to one of our highest points at 3,950 metres before dropping down to the campsite through the gorge. The lava rocks were quite incredible. They just stuck out, and looked amazing. The whole scenery was getting so surreal and almost like a lunar landscape. The Barranco camp was on a slight raised area looking across a valley to the Barranco wall, which is a 1,000-foot cliff face, which in the morning we were going to have to traverse to get to the top. We decided to have a group photograph because if anybody was going to fall off, this is where it was going to happen, because It looked absolutely horrendous from across the valley, and to watch the porters carrying their loads on their heads as they went up. We had to hold on to the walls with our hands, but they just strode up with their full load, no problems at all. But fortunately we all made it to the top. We were now getting cold as the temperatures were dropping, but we were now getting acclimatised to the altitude, and hopefully we'll all be ready for the summit. After the Barranco camp, we then moved on to the Carango camp. We stayed there for one night or so, and then moved up across the Barranco Valley towards Kibo of the South Circuit. The views were absolutely incredible, but you can see the distances that we were travelling each day by the tracks going off into the distance. We certainly covered quite a few miles. We were all holding up remarkably well. When we got to our final camp before the summit, Barafu, we couldn't believe how the porters had managed to get the tents into the campsite. It wasn't a campsite, it was a boulder field, but every tent had good level ground to sleep on. They always managed to find really good camp spots for our tent. Right, we now have a bit of time before we have our last meal. This is me signing, and this is Jeff, our other leader. You have to sign at every stage, as I say. This is our last meal before we go for the summit. We had 2 hours sleep before setting off. Here we are at midnight, leaving the camp, and now we're just, after 7.5 hours, we're up at the crater rim.
Well, we've reached the rim and we've all nearly died. Unbelievable.
Okay, hi Mom.
Unbelievable.
Okay, no problem. No problem, Mama. No problem. It's my job. Yeah.
You paid, John.
You got
us up here.
Yeah, okay.
Well, after I recovered from the climb, I was then able to take in some of the scenery, and we were now at 5,000 meters, and it was just incredible. You could see the curvature of the earth, and we were well above the clouds. The sunrise was just breathtaking, and then you had the glaciers, which are over 200 feet thick on the top of this huge volcano. It was just breathtaking and very emotional. We're all now getting our second wind and ready to do the final trek up to Uhuru Peak, which was about 3/4 of an hour to an hour away. You could just see it in the distance on the edge there, and just doing pan round to the rest of the group and some of the people who have already been up there and are on their way back. We arrived at the summit at 8:40 on the 11th of the 10th, and just panning back now behind us at some of these incredible glaciers.
One phone call, and seeing as there's no Jude, you're the next mission man.
We're on a helicopter.
So, yeah.
You could organise it in the
Everyone
next
made it.
20 minutes.
Can you let them? Can you ring head office and tell them that all the fishermen's mission crew, we're all standing at the highest peak, absolutely hanging. We left camp at midnight last night, and we've just arrived.
After Kerry had phoned the mission and informed them that we'd all been successful, we all had time then to have our own personal photographs. It was just incredible, very emotional, and a wonderful experience.